They were the most infamous crime duo in London, but what were the Kray twins really like? Acclaimed broadcaster and ITV News Meridian presenter Fred Dinenage joins us to reveal just that next.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Now, they were once the ultimate criminal gang lords of London, but in 1969, the Kray twins' reign of terror came to an end when they were given life sentences for their extensive crimes.
Now, more than 50 years on, legendary broadcaster Fred Dinenage is giving audiences an insight into the true story of the notorious criminals. Before Fred gives us an inside scoop, we couldn't resist taking a little look back at how we went from the beloved children's TV presenter to a true crime connoisseur.
In just a few moments from now, the Queen Mary will begin her final transatlantic crossing from Southampton to New York.
5 minutes before the start of the biggest and toughest powerboat race in the world.
How do you get an egg that's long enough to go all the way through a veal ham and egg pie? That's it, and it's got to go. It's got to go all the.
Arms flexed, arms flexed. You can't.
Get it. All right.
Yes?
There we are. How's it done? How's it done? Inside it? Like most of my things.
Cries of cheat.
Like most of my things, a complete failure.
Hello there. I'll be back with the Friday Sports Show in just over an hour from now to bring you a worm's eye view on a new sport.
You're not just a TV presenter, but you're a friend.
Yeah, so kind. That from the old broadcaster is truly how the now.
I'm Fred Dinenage, and I'm investigating the murders that shocked Britain throughout the 20th century. I want to know what motivates someone to kill and find out how they think they can get away with it.
And I'm delighted to say Fred joins us now. Fred, it's such a joy to meet you, because those of us from a certain vintage, you are the presenter's presenter, a fellow who could turn his hand to absolutely everything, as we saw there. What an incredible career you've had.
I've been incredibly lucky, to be quite honest, right from how in the very beginning to how to modern day. I mean, I've just been so lucky, and I'm on this morning's sofa. What more can I ask?
There you go.
Well, you're back on live TV, where it all began for you, Fred, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Does it feel weird being back on live TV? Do you enjoy it?
It's lovely being here. It really is.
So you've gone from our most beloved TV presenter to a true crime connoisseur. How did you, Fred, get involved with Roger and Rennie Kray?
Lovely man called Peter Maguire in Gosport. His daughter, Julie, was dying of liver failure, as her sister had died a few years previously. Suddenly, she got a liver transplant at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge. It was successful. She's living in Spain now. Her dad was so chuffed, Peter was so chuffed, he told the hospital, I'm going to raise £1 million. He started doing all sorts of extraordinary things to help liver transplants and also buy them equipment. He and some mates from the Navy dragged a field gun all the way from Gosport to Cambridge. We featured that on Coast to Coast, which at the time was the ITV regional news show in the south and southeast. I was doing it with Fern Britain. We did a report. A few days later, I got a letter franked HMP Parkhurst. In it, a letter from Reggie Kray, who I'd never met, saying, saw the report, we've got some talented artists in Parkhurst. I could commission some paintings, they could be sold at auction and make some money for this charity. A few weeks later, 6 paintings arrived, 5 of them beautiful, the 6 dreadful. 2 stick boxes in a ring, reds and yellows and purples, but it was signed R. Kray. And, of course, that sold for millions. We got an expert in from Sotheby's, never told him the story. We'd hung the paintings up in the studio. The last one, the one by Reggie Kray, we covered over the name R. Kray. The expert went down the line. Look at the wonderful facial expression in this one. Wonderful countryside scene here. Beautiful seascape there, until he got to the last one. And he said, well, you're having a laugh. This has been done by a kid, and not very well. I said, Reggie Kray did that. He said, let's do it again. So we go down the line again. Look at the facial expression in that. Look at the countryside scene here, the seascape there, until he got down to the last one. What a wonderful impressionist painting this is. This is really, really special. And Reggie saw that. because we transmitted, that was the one we put out. Reggie saw it, wrote me another letter saying, come and see me at Parkhurst Prison.
I can understand why he went full turn, because the reputation was terrifying. So can you remind those people at home who mightn't be familiar with the Kray brothers just what their reputation was like?
The Kray twins ran London's underworld in the 50s and early 60s. Both of them committed a murder, one each. Ronnie murdered another gangster called George Cornell. Reggie killed a gangster called Jack the Hat McVitie, and they both went down for life. Reggie finished up in prison. Ronnie was eventually sent to Broadmoor Hospital for the criminally insane in Crowthorne in Berkshire, and that's where I interviewed him and Reggie in various prisons, but starting at Parkhurst Prison.
You hear about all these, like, terrible crimes that they've committed, and they've asked you to tell their story, but what were they like?
To be quite honest, I got on with them like a house on fire, which probably says a lot about me, I suppose. They were quite different. Reggie was very fit and tough, always in the gym, always in a tracksuit, very wiry, very hyper. Ronnie in Broadmoor was much more relaxed, probably the smartest man I ever met. Lovely suits, lovely shirts, ties, cufflinks, etc. Very gentle man. First time I went to Broadmoor to see him, I was taken into this big visiting hall, stone floors. I was shown to a formica table at the far end of the room at Broadmoor. I passed the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, on the way, who had two young girls stroking his hands because Sutcliffe, extraordinarily enough, had a fan club. He wasn't allowed to look at Ronnie Kray or talk to Ronnie Kray because the Kray twins had no time for anyone who offended against women or children. I was taken to a seat at the far end of the studio at this formica table. A man in a white coat came up to me and said, I'm Ronnie Kray's butler. I said, what?
In prison?
In Broadmoor,
Right.
yeah. He said, I'm Ronnie Kray's butler. I said, are you a patient here? And he said, yes. I said, well, what have you done? He said, well, I have committed murder. He said, well, what can I get you? I said, could I have a coffee? So he said, yes, of course you can. He came back with a lovely pot, beautiful silver pot of coffee, a lovely china cup, a tray of biscuits for me, and for Ronnie Kray, he brought in 6 cans of non-alcoholic lager and 6 packs of cigarettes, because Ronnie would light a cigarette, have one puff, and then put it out. And I sat there and waited, and 10 minutes later, along the stone corridor, I heard this sort of marching sound, because Ronnie Kray marched everywhere, and they called him the Colonel, and that's when we first met.
It's these stories, and there's a danger we romanticise, you know, when we look back at these criminals. I mean, they committed murders. These were dangerous people.
Yes.
The stories are absolutely fascinating, though. But also, you know, maybe in his older age, there was some reflections where he said, you know, actually, I want to maybe stop crime in the future and advise young men. And we do have a TV exclusive today, because you got your hands on a very special piece of advice from one of the Krays. Tell us about that, and what have you got?
On this tiny little hand tape recorder, I'm going back nearly 40 years now. Ronnie Kray said to me one day, I want to record some messages. I want to talk to kids. I want to talk about my brother, etc., etc., etc. So I said, well, this was the days before mobile phones. So I went to the Broadmoor authorities and said, look, he wants to do some recordings. And they said, well, OK, but we need to listen to them afterwards. So I did record some stuff with Ronnie. The authorities listened to them and said, well, it's fine, but you can't use this on the radio or the telly. So I put it up in the loft at home, forgot all about it. Until fairly recently, when a colleague of mine, a guy called Alex Dyke, said to me, you said you'd got a tape of Ronnie. We searched the attic for hours and finally found this, with the tape still inside it. Another colleague of mine, a dear friend called Richard, managed to get it working. And we've got quite a long tape of Ronnie Kray speaking, but certainly we've got a little.
So we have a key bit here, which we're going to play to people at home. The first time this has been heard on British television, and words of wisdom and reflection from Ronnie Kray.
Many young people who have read our books may think we've had a glamorous life, but I advise any young people today not to get in any trouble, because it will only bring them a life of misery. It will make people look again at Broadmoor and the people who are here. I also make the government look again at my brother, who has been locked up for more than 25 years. Did his time he had justice. Good luck to you. Thank you for your support. I wish I could be with you. One day, with any luck, I will be. All the best, Ron Kray.
Oh, Fred, I just wish we had more time with you because it sounds to me like you've got so many more stories
like a
to
voice
tell.
from the grave, you know. And yes, so a part of this tour I'm doing is obviously all about the Krays, but I also, just to lighten things up, do a thing called Sometimes It Won't Be All Right on the Night, and look back at 60 years of cock-ups by me in TV.
What a great evening to spend with you, Fred. It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
And people can get tickets for your tour right now.
Yes, go on the website, Ronnie, Reggie and me. It's on Facebook as well, and that'll show you what the theatre's where it is. We're in Basingstoke on Friday night. We're in Christchurch on Sunday night, for example.
Good luck with the tour, Fred. It's
Thanks,
so
Fred.
lovely to have you on.
And that, as the presenter used to say, is how.
How?
For now.
For now.
How for now, Fred. Thank you so much. Well